split like that.
Ready to go. Let's go, man. Let's get this game started, bro.
Get the game started. Blow the whistle. Show the world. Let's go tonight.
What is up, everyone? Welcome into another episode of The Cut. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and I am here with Randy Hall. Randy, how are you, dude?
Oh, my God. One off day, and I'm feeling it. Surprisingly, my allergies still hit me bad, and I tried not to leave the fucking house today.
There you go. Yeah, my allergies are awful. I have an appointment with an allergist this week, and I can't take my allergy medicine tonight. So tomorrow, I'm just going to die. I'm going to die. My throat's going to close up, I think, and it's going to be a good time.
Now you know it's like when I get stung by a bee.
There you go. Yeah, it's about the same.
All right. Get another way we can connect as friends. Look at that.
Yeah, right. Yes, we need to remind each other that based on our pre-show discussion about Julio Jones. What's up, Jeff? It's good to see you.
Hey, Jeff, what's up?
Randy and I can already tell that if we bring up this Julio trade, we're going to argue a little bit. So we're gonna touch on it very, very quickly. But first, obviously, follow us at The Cut FFB if you don't already. If you're listening on the audio form, remember that we do go live every Monday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard or Daylight Time, depending on, Daylight Savings Time. I didn't even know the EDT was a thing until like last week. So,
Right.
if you're listening to audio form as well, just go ahead and drop us a 4 or 5 star review. That would be great. We would love that. Go to thecutffb.com and check out Adam's new article on DeAndre Swift. Very, very well written. Very good job, Adam. Very proud of you. And it's a really great read. But tonight we will be talking through our Dynasty wide receiver rankings, which is what brought up the topic of Julio and AJ Brown. And we're also going to be talking through some burning questions for the AFC North. But first, I feel the need. We have to talk about the Julio trade. So,
we're going to talk about it when we go through the rankings, though, aren't we?
Yes, but I kind of want to get this out of the way. So,
God.
So Randy and I, pre-show, we were discussing who the wide receiver one for the Titans is, and Randy says it's AJ Brown, and I can hear that argument, right? I think that Julio Jones is still superior to AJ Brown. And Randy,
route running, yeah.
Okay, route running also.
But I don't think it's a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2.
You don't.
In Cleveland, I don't think that in Tennessee now. I don't think that for the Vikings. It's definitely 1A, 1B, and I think it's the same thing. And I think this year it's still going to be AJ Brown. Dynasty, it's clearly AJ Brown. Just how it is. He's the stalwart of it. He's been there. He was their leader. He has the connections. It's just going to keep going.
I agree. Yes, for Dynasty, AJ Brown is definitely the wide receiver 1 for that team. But I mean, who's Jalen Ramsey matching up against? If they play the Rams, is Ramsey matching up against Julio or is he matching up against AJ Brown?
Would he match up? Wouldn't he just play aside?
He'd probably just play aside, but then that goes back to it.
That's why they traded for Julio right there.
I mean, yeah, the Titans are they pretty much line AJ Brown up on the right side in the X, and Corey Davis played the Z, but Julio's only ever played X, right? So I mean, that's where I don't know what they're gonna do because they have 2 alpha receivers. I don't know. Well, It's a weird trade in the first place.
I wouldn't foresee them doing something stupid like trying to change what they're trying to make AJ Brown.
Yeah.
Why halt his development and make him go from a different position? Basically, just doesn't make sense.
Right. But man, but why are they going to use Corey Davis or AJ or fucking Christ,
Well,
Julio Jones in a
tell you
Corey
what,
Davis role?
Corey Davis is definitely the wide receiver too. I can tell you that. So, yeah, of course they will. Corey Davis had like 92 targets last year. Julio's going to get 100 targets, hopefully, if he plays, and then he'll get 3 touchdowns because that's fucking Julio, and that'll be it.
Yeah, I will say too. This is part of an argument against Julio that I've seen a lot today. Julio hasn't actually missed significant time in a season since 2013 if you remove last year. Obviously, last year, recency bias is at play. And yes. Randy, you and I talked. Yes, he has been hurt during games, and he's run out there, but he still is on the field. So I wouldn't count that as like a miss. He still acts as a pretty good decoy. I mean,
I don't know. How many Julio Jones shares do you have? Because if you have them, I can promise you feel like those weeks are misses. I can promise you.
That's fair, but I have 0 because his price was always too high. But
still is, I'm sure. All right.
Yes. All right. Let's talk through our Dynasty wide receiver ranking. So we're going to talk more wide receivers. We're going to do this one exactly the way that we've done our other 2 positions that we've gone through, which has worked out well. We're going to go 50-1, and we're going to go in little groups of 10-ish and go from there. So wide receivers 50 through 40. I will read them off for us. Starting at 50, Henry Ruggs. 49, Rondale Moore. 48, Michael Gallup. 47, Paris Campbell. 46, Laviska Shenault. 45, Jarvis Landry. 44, Corey Davis. Shout out that guy. Talked about him already. 43, Michael Pittman Jr. 42, Robbie Anderson. 41, Brandon Cooks. Did I say we were going to 40? Yeah, I absolutely did. Will Fuller is our 40th wide receiver. First thoughts about our group here. And remember, guys, these are our consensus. This is not just Randy and I. These are Adam is also included in our rankings. And so we might disagree with all of them. We won't, but, Randy, what are your first thoughts of our first group of 10?
It's going to be a consistent thing that we have to end up saying for every group here. There's young guys in there, and because this position is so young, receiver dominant, and so they're going to be peppered in everywhere. I definitely said peckered, but with the mix of young guys, there's a lot of high upside later round picks. These are the in theory like sleeper picks for dynasty startups. Young guys, obviously Moore's a rookie. Ruggs is basically a rookie, it feels like. Paris Campbell's basically a rookie, it feels like. Same with Pittman. And besides that, like Brandon Cooks, older, but usually gets the job done on a team that's dog shit, and he's pretty much the only thing, so should be good. Landry is always that guy that's just going to be a wide receiver 2 or 3. That's just who he is. I mean, he obviously had the wide receiver 1 year, but he's not going to have that in Cleveland. And then Laviska, we're lower on. I mean, there's a lot of question marks for Laviska still.
Yeah, there are people touting him as the wide receiver 1 for the Jaguars, and
that's just
ultimate. I mean, I don't think we know who the wide receiver 1 is, but if I had to make a bet, it's DJ Chark.
Easy for me.
He profiles as the alpha. He has a productive year, and while he definitely had a down year last year, so do the Jags. And so if we assume that the Jaguars are going to be good again and they're going to have some touchdown upside, then I assume that DJ Chark is going to be their go-to. Urban Meyer's come out and said he didn't play the way he needed to. He played like a small wide receiver, and they're going to work on making him play big, which makes me think that's their alpha. So,
yeah. I mean, for me, obviously this is a dynasty ranking, but I think Ruggs is probably going to be a wide receiver 3. I think Moore and Gallup won't do a ton this year necessarily. Gallup has a shot depending on how lethal that passing attack is. We have both Colts receivers that matter. Just pointing that out for anyone that doesn't remember. Who cares about T.Y. Hilton? That dude is gone. That dude could not get open. I think he was like 3rd percentile against man coverage and like 10th against press or something like that last year. the dude can't get open.
Yeah.
That was
It's
his
true.
only thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, his quote about having a deep threat or a deep throwing quarterback and Carson Wentz being the guy that he was talking about. I think he might have gotten like him and Eason confused or something in practice
Maybe.
yeah. It's
Well,
not
I'm sure
Owing-
Carson can throw deep. It's just he doesn't do it accurately.
exactly.
But
It's weird.
there's a good. I mean, Will Fuller, he's on a 1-year deal, so there's a lot of question marks there. He played a lot of games, but was that because of some things? I don't know.
Yeah.
If he's played every game, he's going to be a wide receiver too. Same with Robbie Anderson. Probably one of the Colts receivers is a 3. Corey Davis 3. Landry 2 or 3. I mean, it's a good group of guys. If you have to wait on a receiver, there's some young guys here and some guys that can win you now.
Yeah, for sure. Now, obviously, wide receiver is probably the deepest position that we'll get to talk about. There are guys that we left off our list that, for example, are like a Fantasy Pros consensus, and I guess we can touch on some here at the back end here. Jalen Reagor is not on our list. Elijah Moore, which those are guys
that's fair.
Yeah. Hollywood Brown as well. It looks like those 3 are the like main ones that we don't have on our list.
In Hollywood was our 51. So that one's fair. I will say, like, we're a little bit higher on Moore. We're super high on Campbell. There's a ton of disrespect for Jacoby Myers, I think, in the community. Just a quick shout out to that guy who is going to be the wide receiver 1 for the Patriots. But Reagor, he didn't do shit. He's a wide receiver 2 now. On a team where we don't know if we could fully trust the quarterback for throwing purposes yet.
Yeah. It's a fair assessment. I do think Reagor moving to the slot will be good for him, but I need to see it before I rank him anywhere. So yeah. All right, let's move on to our 39 through 30-ish. Deebo Samuel at 39. Tyler Boyd at 38. 37 is Curtis Samuel. 36, Adam Thielen. 35, Tyler Lockett. A couple of older guys here. 34, Rashad Bateman. 33, Jalen Waddle. 32, Jerry Jeudy. 31, Chase Claypool. And then 30, Juju Smith-Schuster. Again, you mix some of the older vets that have a year or 2 left, or maybe you can stretch it to 3 for Lockett.
Lockett, I would say at least 3, but I'm up in the air with Thielen, because it's not like he had like a high hit count before he really caught on, but he is older. And Boyd is wide receiver 2 now, could be 3.
It's tough.
Samuel's the 2, 3.
Yeah. The Bengals. We'll get to talk about them later. And I don't know what Boyd is for that team. I think he is the safety net, which means I think he provides some fantasy value here.
I think the biggest thing for Boyd was they didn't get a tight end to give a shit about. Yes. So he now keeps that like middle. Just that's mine. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good for him.
But we are a good bit higher on Bateman than like consensus from like Fantasy Pros and other places, and we're decently lower on Claypool and Jerry Jeudy. I think both of those guys are great young talents with so much upside, but not necessarily like sturdy situations. Like obviously Claypool is the wide receiver 3 of his own team. Jerry Jeudy could be the wide receiver 1 if he caught the ball. And their both quarterback situations are kind of dog shit. So, And that's, we're higher on Bateman for kind of the same thing, but we just kind of believe in him.
Yeah. Well, and you can make an argument for Jeudy specific and Claypool, really. Are they the wide receiver 1 for their team? For Claypool, we'll talk about that again later, but it's a no.
With a different quarterback, maybe. But
with
like a more explosive arm, instead of throwing piss missiles for 20 yards.
But and the same thing with Jeudy. I remember when we were putting together our rankings, you texted, I think, in our group, or maybe just me, and am I ranking him above Cortland Sutton? And I said, I'm not. I think Cortland Sutton is still their wide receiver one. People, recency bias is at large this year. It is
Yes,
full fledged because Cortland Sutton. I mean, people were making like some crazy comparisons for how good he can be, and he can.
He had to have been like Dynasty wide receiver, like 13 through like 16, somewhere in there.
Yep,
coming into last year.
And it was warranted. Like, the dude is a freaking beast. He's a red zone monster. He's a contested catch type of guy. And Judy is a very different guy. So hopefully they can both be successful. But I think Sutton's the alpha there, which is good for Judy probably.
One of my favorite things I've heard lately was you could make a highlight tape of Judy's route running getting open on plays where Locke just couldn't fathom looking that side. Like, that says everything. He gets the job done. He got a high amount of targets last year. Maybe that was more than what he was used to, and the drops seemed more worse because of that, and because they came in really key situations. So I think he's going to be a value anywhere you can get him. Claypool's, I would just have to be lower. If Juju didn't come back, he'd be much higher.
Yeah. I mean,
he'd have opportunity.
He'd have opportunity, but what is the value of a deep threat kind of guy that doesn't have a quarterback that can even throw past 20 yards? But
that's fair.
But that's a short-lived thing too, and this is a dynasty ranking, so you kind of have to weigh that as well.
I also think people have left out the thinking that they're going to go to a lot of 12 personnel this year now with their drafting of Pat Freiermuth, which means there's 2 receivers, and I can guarantee you Deontay Johnson's one of them, and I can almost guarantee the other one's Juju.
I think they might rotate in a little bit in 12 personnel and get Claypool as a deep threat and Deontay is underneath, and then Freiermuth and Ebron, and I don't know. They need those guys to block.
We'll see. I'm just saying. But yeah, that's enough on that group.
All right, let's move into the next group. So Juju did make this graphic because I suck at making tier breaks with graphics, but enjoy looking at this. So 29 Devontae Smith, 28 Robert Woods, 27 Brandon Ayuk, 26 Cooper Kupp, 25 T Higgins, 24 Odell Beckham Jr., 23 Amari Cooper, 22 Julio Jones, and 21 DJ Chark. Randy, first thoughts of this group?
Well, it's just a group of studs. I think that's the best way to say it. This is the bread and butter of where a lot of people like me that go heavy running back in drafts, or get one quarterback and still go heavy running back, or snag one of those tight ends, and we try and figure out the receiver after. This is the bread and butter, because you look at this list and you see just absolute killers. You have some older guys like Julio, who we're definitely higher on, but I don't think any of us believe Julio is necessarily going to miss. Like, we don't think like he's going to miss like 7 games. We think like he'll maybe miss 1 or 2, and maybe he'll be banged up for another 1 or 2. And even then, Julio's probably a wide receiver 22 at worst. But I do think he's got a good 3 years left in him, and that's probably Ryan Tannehill's prime as well left, so it should work out well. Other older guys, Kupp is like 27, so he's definitely a little bit older for where people view him, and Woods, obviously same team, but they're all just going to win for you. And to some extent, I guess Odell and Cooper are considered older thanks to the last 2 draft classes of wide receivers, but there's just a lot of guys I love here, man.
And I don't want to harp too much on Odell or really any of the AFC North, because we will get to talk a lot about them in a little bit, especially those 2 right there. But the one I wanted to bring up, so I think in my rankings I have Woods over Kupp. Now, it is the only reason that you would have Kupp over Woods, and I don't know that you do. Would it just be age? Because I know Woods has a couple years on Kupp.
I have Kupp over Woods for sure. You have the back-to-back with Woods over Kupp. And Adam has it Cup Woods. So I think they're so damn close. And then you go into, I don't know necessarily how they're going to play into this offense now because neither really are what Matthew Stafford's thrived at over the years. Like, there's honestly the one that's going to be that is Van Jefferson. And I don't know if we want to get into that kind of conversation today. But both these guys are so good. They're very versatile. They both get basically the same stats every year. Woods usually gets more targets and he gets the running plays, but Cup gets the touchdowns.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like we talked about the Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. It's a lot like that relationship, ironically, more than one way. But either way, the slight age, because I think Woods is like 30. It's not a huge difference. So that puts him maybe like 1 or 2 up, and then they have the same kind of role. One is maybe a little bit more consistent thanks to the touchdown, so just a little bit higher.
Yeah, this is a group, like you said, that I'm definitely targeting. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but I saw Julio ranked at wide receiver 44 tonight. I understand the reasoning, but if people are going to rank Julio Jones that low, I am going to scoop him in every fucking draft that I'm in. Every single one.
Well, you say that, but we're in a lot of drafts together, so you probably won't.
That's true. Yeah, I'll have to fight you for it.
Exactly. But in general, like even the young guys here, like Ayuk and Higgins, they've had some success, but we're a lot lower than consensus on them just because, I mean, Ayuk did a lot of his damage when Debo was not there, and Higgins did a lot of damage last year, but he's now clearly the 2. I think he was probably the 2 last year still, thanks to over-targeting to A.J. Green, but I think he could still coexist with Chase. It's hard to picture how all 3 truly thrive unless they're throwing like astronomical numbers, which means that we should probably taper off Mixon, and I don't want to do that. So this is where they land.
Yeah, that's going to be something we talk about here in a bit. So let's get right into our wide receivers 20 through 11. So 20, Cortland Sutton, 19, Deontay Johnson, 18, Kenny Golladay, 17, Mike Evans, 16, Jamar Chase, 15, Keenan Allen, 14, Chris Godwin, 13, DJ Moore, and then the start of the wide receiver ones with 12 and 11, CeeDee Lamb and Michael Thomas. First thoughts here?
Well, I will say quickly, I forgot to mention it. Like, we're a good amount lower than Amari Cooper. He was in our last graphic at 23. Most places he's like 14 to 17. And I think that's just our belief in CeeDee Lamb and somewhat Gallup. So just want to point that out why he's a little bit low for us. But for this group, up to 11, ultra close to consensus. Obviously, we have CeeDee Lamb up here for that reason, pushing Amari down. And every one of these guys has a shot or will be a wide receiver 1 this year. Like, you got again a few older guys that have shown out every single year, and Keenan Allen, Michael Thomas, Mike Evans are consistent gods. They will get it done every year, no matter the situation, it seems, and they're going to do it again this year. The young guys, CeeDee Lamb's already shown out. DJ Moore's already shown out. Godwin, same thing. Deontay, same thing. Kenny G, same thing, but he's got to be a little bit lower because a new situation. Cortland Sutton, he's got to be a little higher because he's the only one that's actually producing that offense, besides Noah Fant, I guess. But Jamar Chase, highest rookie. I don't hate it. He is an incredible elite prospect, and he's in a great situation with his former quarterback, and in 1 year's time, his former offensive coordinator being his head coach. So Chase is in a fantastic situation. He's going to kill it. I wouldn't be shocked if he is in people's top 5 next year. Yep.
I wouldn't doubt that would be possible. I'm just in the camp that I'm going to speak Joe Brady into the Chicago Bears head coaching job, and that's
so
what
everyone is speaking Joe Brady into the Cardinals, the Bears, the Lions, even, which is quite rude. uh, and then the Bengals. And it's going to be one of them, obviously, but
Yeah. If he wants to leave, I mean, maybe he turns Sam Darnold around and they make the playoffs and then he stays. But
see, that's the thing. If he does turn Sam Darnold around, he's going to be offered so much money. So much money.
Something ridiculous. But
like a Gruden contract. Like he's getting that.
Probably. Yeah, that's crazy. First thing on this list for me, now I don't know where Cortland Sutton lands in consensus. I'm trying to look it up here.
It's
23. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not looking at that right now. So he's at 23 on consensus. He's at 20 for us. So we are a little higher. I'm actually shocked that that's consensus for Cortland Sutton. Most people are still higher on Jerry Jeudy. The one name in here that I just don't know if he belongs for one reason or another, and this is a guy that I've loved for a long, long time. Kenny Golladay, I don't know what his upside is in New York, just with how many different guys have to touch the ball and the fact that we don't know what the quarterback situation looks like after this year and next year. I am uncertain about
my thing is their offense has been dog shit. I think he gets ultra peppered with targets, and he's just by far and away the target leader in every category. And he reminds people why he was so good a year ago with Stafford. Now, and we know Jones, he's not like a great deep thrower or anything, but he can get it done, at least on occasion. A healthy Saquon should help this offense in general. And yes. I just, like, we're higher consensus for Golladay. Like, he's about 22 for places. But just the pure talent has him up higher for us, I think.
Yeah.
He could get a different quarterback. I mean, that can happen, but I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing.
No, I think it's a good thing. But
yeah,
the fact that we just don't know who it might be, and it might be Daniel Jones. You know, shout out to Steffi Smalls, who I tweet some bad things about Daniel Jones, and then I kind of feel bad because I'm not 100% sold that he's bad. Because he's flashed a little bit of potential. I don't think it's going to be a Josh Allen-like rise, but I also think that he could be better this year.
And that's the shit that makes people want to tweet negative stuff, because the people that are tweeting all the positive stuff are tweeting ridiculous things.
Yes.
Like he is going to be this year's Josh Allen. He's going to completely correct all mistakes, and he's going to be an absolute ridiculous person. And he's going to be Josh Allen, but he doesn't have the arm, and he's worse accuracy wise, but he's going to improve it to the same amount that Josh. It's just, I don't see it. I'm not saying he can't be the quarterback of the future, and fantasy wise, he's always a good option because he can run. I mean, he's going to fumble it, but he can run. I mean, Josh Allen fumbles too, so it's not nothing there. It's just always like an extreme with the positive people. So it seems like a lot of negative people have to go the other extreme, but it's really definitely more in the middle where we're just up in the air, really.
Yeah. I did want to mention one guy that I am slightly higher on than our consensus. I think I'm the reason that he got up where he is. From that list is DJ Moore. The dude has been ultra productive with ultra bad quarterbacks play for the most part. And I think we're in for like a true breakout, even though like he's been very, very good already. But I think wide receiver one is in his cards, not the wide receiver one maybe this year, but I think down the road you could see that out of DJ Moore. I think that's in his realm of possibilities.
I love DJ Moore's talent. And it's one of those situations where, again, now there's 3 receivers that are going to get targeted. And we get McCaffrey back, hopefully, and that's a huge amount of targets right there. I think Darnold's going to have a great year. Obviously, I ranked DJ Moore at 13, so he's perfect for me. You had him slightly higher, add him a little bit lower. It just fits neat here, because this is where like he's a top level talent that can be a wide receiver one any year. If he has an ultra breakout, he's going to be killing it. He's going to be in that top end conversation next year. But he's got to be down still slightly because we still have question mark at quarterback necessarily.
Yeah. And also, I do want to mention that we're higher than most consensus places. So maybe I'm just greedy. And yeah.
Consensus is like 15-ish, and that's our lowest ranking between the three of us. So,
yeah. All right, let's get into our 10 through 6. So 10, Allen Robinson, 9, Terry McLaurin, 8, DeAndre Hopkins, 7, A.J. Brown, 6, Stephon Diggs. Randy, I know you disagree with the A.J. Brown, but other than that, what are your thoughts?
Okay. Allen Robinson, Hopkins. Older, get it done no matter what. Easy top 10, in my opinion. Especially Allen Robinson with a honestly upgraded quarterback, no matter who it is. Like, even if it is Dalton for the first bit or the whole season even, I think it's a decent upgrade, or at least nothing worse than he had, and he's been a wide receiver 1 or just off every year. Hopkins, we thought could taper down. Not a fucking chance, so not going to go against that again. And Diggs coming off an absolute god year with less competition now. So I mean, it's hard for me that Diggs isn't in the top 5. I'm not even sure I ranked him top 5. I'm just saying, like, I ranked him 5th exactly. Like, it's just he's just so good, and he's quite possibly the best route runner in the NFL. I'm not having that kind of argument today, but he's got a great quarterback situation right now. A.J. Brown's got a great quarterback situation right now. Hopkins is a good one. Terry, hit or miss for right now. I think that's why he's got to stay this kind of low, and same with Robinson. Hopefully Fields steps in good enough, but those guys, who do you want to talk? What is your thoughts before we talk about Brown?
I mean, I think a lot of what Diggs did was a little unsustainable. I think that where he thrived was when Josh Allen went off script. And so are we going to see that again? I'm not going to get into the Ben Solak, Josh Allen, Bills war. But I think what Benjamin Solak said about Josh Allen made a lot of sense. And then I went and I watched a few highlights, and most of Josh Allen's highlights come on plays that broke down, and then Diggs ran wide open across the middle because you can't contain Diggs for that long. Now, are they going to still be able to do it this year? Probably. I don't know who's going to stop them from doing that. And like you said, Diggs is such a good route runner. The talent's always been there. It's just the consistency wasn't, and now it is.
And consistency wasn't there because of Thielen as well, and quarterback play and the offense. But, man, I don't like that argument against Allen, though, because what are highlight plays for Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Lamar? It's Mahomes. It's all broken down plays that they make a play. Like, it's just not a good argument to me. Like, if it's a broken down play and they make a play, it's always gonna be a fucking highlight.
It's fair. Yeah. I mean, I guess the point is that, like, the arrogant arm stuff, you get that. Like, Aaron Rodgers has an arrogant arm and sometimes doesn't know when to check down, and you're gonna live and die by that, though. Like, Aaron Rodgers is lost in the playoffs because of that.
Well, this is fantasy. I'm not talking Super Bowl here.
I know.
But Diggs isn't the short route. That's Beasley. That's Knox.
No,
that's
I know.
Whatever half-ass running backs out there. So,
literally,
I mean, honestly, like, I think because they didn't upgrade really at tight end, it only bolsters Diggs for me, honestly. But I mean, it's hit or miss with that. A.J. Brown, we have to do it quick. Quickly for me, I have him 4. Adam has him at 6. You have him at 11.
I do.
Hence his 7th overall ranking. I obviously consensus is like 2. So I agree that that's high. But I think it's a bit of dynasty ranking, putting the young stud up. Yeah. For me, obviously we'll get to the top 5, but I think there's a clear top 2, and no one should argue that, even if they are slightly older. Like, I think it's just clear to me. A.J. Brown, I had him at 3, I bumped him down one spot because of the trade. I think it does cap upside for the next 2 to 3 years, which may be the only bit of Tannehill that matters left. So it does raise some questions. I'm agreeing with all those statements. I think he's still clearly the 1A because this is his offense. And I think he keeps his deep threat route role as well as continuing to get a better route tree. And Julio is going to be a lot of the times I think Julio is going to get the top coverage still because just respect to Julio if he doesn't lose a step, which I don't anticipate him losing a step.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, no, I get it. I hear you. Now, A.J. Brown finished as wide receiver 12 last year, and he was ultra efficient. I guess my ranking of him, it actually has less to do with Julio than it does with A.J. Brown or really anything. It has more to do with the fact that they lost Arthur Smith. And I don't know how much faith I'm putting into that offense yet because I don't think it looks the same. And then if it doesn't look the same and A.J. Brown gets 120 or 130 targets, then yeah, sure, I'm going to be wrong on him. But what happens when he stays at 100 and then they decide to throw to freaking Josh Reynolds 50 times? You know, I know there are such thing as vacated targets and people can argue that they're real or they're not. But I want to see it before I'm drafting A.J. Brown. I mean, I think there are people that are drafting A.J. Brown with like top 5 overall picks. And I can't get there, and I'll never have another share of A.J. Brown if that's the case. I think you're going to see a little bit of a fade here. And again, I didn't really fade because of Julio because they had no one to catch the ball. It was just going to be A.J. Brown, which was why I could see the justification for a top 5. But alas,
yeah,
I am the low one.
For me, it's 11 is just too low for me. That's my biggest thing. I know you still ranked him as wide receiver 1. I think he's clearly top 10 just because of what he's done in the age. But I understand all of your arguments. So
That's fair. All right, let's get into the good stuff, the top 5 here. So at 5, we have Calvin Ridley. At 4, we have DK Metcalf. 3, Justin Jefferson. 2, Devontae Adams. And 1, Tyreek Hill. I guess it's worth noting that Justin Jefferson's probably here because of me, right? I feel as though he is.
Well, I mean, he's just at 3. So you have him at 2. Adam has him at 4. I have him at 6. Yeah, I think it's just weird. I think people, you can have him this high. It's just you're also not baking in the fact that Cousins may be gone into this year, and I think that's ludicrous to not add that into Dynasty rankings. So I have down a little bit. I don't think it's necessarily you that have him up there. Maybe it is you because you have DK a little bit lower, so maybe it just puts him slightly. But for us, it's a clear one, too, of Hill and Adams. And Adams is consensus 1. I think he should be 1. The only reason he isn't 1 is because you ranked him 3. And Hill got a 1, 2, and a 1. Adams got a 1, 2, and a 3. I mean, it's very, very close. Don't get me wrong. But
yeah,
I understand why. Because Hill's tied to a better quarterback for longer. So I definitely get it. I think next year it might be that, but
yeah. So my argument for Justin Jefferson, going back to your point about Kirk Cousins, Kirk's been very good. One of the more underrated guys in the league, but I also don't know that if they go out and upgrade from Kirk, I think it's going to be an upgrade.
It may not be an upgrade though. It could be Kellen Mond.
See, I don't see that as a I guess I should see it as a possibility, but I don't see that as a path that the Vikings would take unless they go full tank mode for a couple years.
It could be Drew Lock. It could be Trubisky. It could be Bridgewater. It could be.
It won't be Teddy again. He probably won't be going back to Minnesota.
I forgot. He could.
He could. I mean,
but that's what I mean. Like, I'm baking in that this could be the last year of Cousins, and it could be a year of a veteran, an older veteran, or a young veteran trying to get a second shot. or it could be Mond. And at that bet, I mean, Jefferson could still get a ton of targets and be great. I still think he'd easily be top 10, but it's a little bit lower for me.
Yeah, I hear you. And then, I mean, Devontae being 3. So I have Jefferson at 2 and Devontae at 3. And the only thing that I baked into that was the chance that Aaron Rodgers isn't there is definitely looming.
And you do it for one, not the other? What the fuck?
Well, here's the thing, though. Losing Aaron Rodgers versus losing Kirk Cousins, that's where, like, and also the immediacy. Like, I know Kirk is for sure their quarterback this year, and so that's why I would rank him there.
So are you saying that if Rodgers came out tomorrow and said, I'm for sure the Packers quarterback this year and for the rest of my career, is Adam back to 1? Is he to 2?
2. He'd be to 2, okay. I think. So yes, I mean, and rankings are always fluid, and okay. I update, but I also just have a lot of doubts that Aaron Rodgers does play there. I think Devontae Adams is pretty quarterback proof, but he's not quarterback proof to the point that I wouldn't bump someone up above him. Damn. He's still a top 3 receiver for me.
And that's from the lone Jordan Love believer. Listen to that, folks.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's a little tough.
There's no we anymore. There might have been a we at one point. They're all gone. That no one believes.
There's 1 or 2 left. I've
maybe in Green Bay. Maybe.
Yeah.
With the Rodgers quickly, if he sits, I think he's just done. Like he's not at an age where he can. It's not Watson where he could sit out. Obviously, I'm not talking about the other things, but. Like, for just pure football, Watson could sit out and be perfectly fine and honestly probably just be healthier. But besides that, Houston fucking offensive line. Whereas Rodgers, if he sits, he's literally cutting off a year. Like, obviously that's for everyone. But, I mean, like, he only has a limited amount of years left. And if to just purely waste one just does not seem like a possibility to me. I think it's way more likely that they just fire the GM and try and trade for anything to make him happy. They're going to cut someone and give him more money too. That's what's going to happen.
I hope so, man. They really need to. But all right, that'll do it for our Dynasty wide receiver rankings. Again, those are our consensus rankings. I'm sure we'll have updated ones later. What's up?
Quickly, Ridley at 5. He's not in the top 5 for a good amount of places. We have him there. Me and Christian both loved him last year. Christian definitely a little bit more bullish than myself. Definitely give credit there. He's going to stay there. He's clearly the number 1 target now. He's going to get a ton of targets. I will say he doesn't have a full repertoire of going against the corner 1. So there might be some correlation to where a little bit of the times numbers drop off. But there is a good amount of research, thanks to Julio being banged up, where he plays with Julio and without Julio. And without Julio, he's still a god. With Julio, he's still a god. So
yeah. It's good to note that too, because most of the arguments around Calvin Ridley are, his legs are tiny, he's going to get hurt. Well, that's not a really sound argument to me. The dude is just good.
I'll tell you what, Julio's legs aren't tiny, and I swear that dude's ankles and feet are broken every day. So
that's very true. Yeah, that's facts. All right, that'll do it for our Dynasty wide receiver rankings. Again, these are fluid, guys. We will update at certain times. I don't know when the next update will come. Probably not until, some new things happen, which I don't know if new things will happen before the season. So, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at there. Anything else to add before we move into our Burnin questions?
Nope.
All right. Then it is time to do just that. So our Burnin questions segment, we are going through 3 questions for every team. And this week we are talking about the AFC North. So definitely going to be a fun one for us because we are Browns fans. If you've listened to the podcast, you do know that. And so let's try to save the Browns for last. We're going to rotate the order around here, but
I put them in all pretty alphabetical order, and you just going to do that to me.
You sure did, yeah. But we're going to have to save the Browns.
That's fair. It's fun hour.
Keep the listeners on their.
No, it's fine.
All right. The 3 questions for the Cincinnati Bengals. I will read them off, then we will go back through and we will answer them. 2021 only. How do the wide receivers finish? Second question, can Joe Mixon succeed as a workhorse in this offense behind that offensive line? And then number 3, should we have lower expectations for Joe Burrow, also tied into that shitty offensive line? Randy, first question, what's your answer?
Okay, now this is difficult. I will have Jamar Chase as a wide receiver 2. And then I will put T. Higgins as a late, like wide receiver 35, 36, and Boyd wide receiver 39, 40. It is a weird. I hate it. I hate it. It's just one of those teams that are just completely 3 wide receiver. You know, one's the top dog, but you don't know how the rest of it's going to go. And I hate it. I just absolutely hate it.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I actually think Boyd is going to be the 2 ahead of T this year.
He could be, but Burrow is not necessarily like a check down guy, but he also he's got like an 8 yards per target. Which is good. I mean, that's the same as like Herbert. So
It is, but the thing that worries me, and hopefully Jamar Chase fixes this, and that way T can be your intermediate, Jamar Chase can kind of be your deep threat, and then Boyd can work underneath, with Mixon hopefully sprinkling in some catches as well, which we'll talk about that in a second. But I mean, Burrow could not throw accurately deep last year, and he knows that, and he was working on that already, and he's planning on his injured knee already. So things are looking good for Burrow. I need to see Burrow get a lot better before I have a ton of confidence in all 3 of these guys. But for this year, I mean, I think I'd take Jamar Chase as like a high-end wide receiver 2, Boyd as a low-end 2, and then T as a 3. I do think they're going to be throwing a shit ton. I think that's what they want to do. I don't know that they necessarily got the pieces on their offensive line to justify it. But I think they're going to want to, at least. You know, everybody wants things.
Yeah, that line's still scary. It's going to hurt all facets. I don't know. It's a weird offense. It's an offense that could be ultra explosive. It's an offense that could piss us off. Yeah,
and there's a chance Zach Taylor gets fired within the first quarter of the season, and then we have no idea what it looks like. But
bad. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, it'd be very bad. All right, question number 2: can Joe Mixon succeed as a workhorse, specifically behind that bad offensive line? Randy, why is it no?
Well, from our rankings, it's definitely yes. But the reason it's a no is because, one, they're not going to be a good team. So that's going to limit game script opportunities. There's going to be times where he's off the field. It's not going to be anywhere near as bad as it was the last couple of years with Gio Bernard there, but there will be some times where he's off the field. And there's just a couple times where I'm just not quite sure where I'm going to be ultra excited on the guy. And with that line being so bad, they're going to be just plugging up holes for him. He's going to get hit in the backfield. That was his biggest issue last year, in my opinion, was just being hit in the backfield as he touched the ball. And then obviously it got worse once Burrow was down for obvious reasons and very fair reasons at that. But a full year of Burrow, I think it should be a little bit better. But it's very clear the concern from people. He's had some injury issues, so there's recency bias there too. The line is going to be the reason that he wouldn't be an RB1 specifically.
Yeah. I mean, I think the line is definitely still a problem. They upgraded their guard position with Jackson Carman, which is probably like, I'll be shocked if he wins the job. If I'm being I don't think he's that good.
No,
he's probably going to play because they invested high capital in him, but they did upgrade the right side with Riley Reif. So I do think the tackles are okay this year with Jonah Williams and Riley Reif, but outside of that, there's nothing to be excited about. And honestly, Mixon, if he's going to be successful, they want to run him in between the tackles. I mean,
he's going to have to get a lot of work done in the first half.
Yeah.
And that's a scary thing to talk about. Like, this offense can definitely be volatile enough and be so strong in the passing game that they're leading games. They're definitely going to win more games, in my opinion. But it's going to be hard for him to get 70 yards in the first half with that line. So,
yeah. No, I feel that. All right, and then third question, should we have lower expectations for Joe Burrow? This isn't meant to be a bash sesh of the offensive line down there in Cincinnati, but
it is. And and it's because, again, like, they made it was a good pick to pick Jamar Chase. Obviously, from a pure football standpoint, I would have preferred them take Sewell, but again, that's just a pure football take at it. Chase is going to be great there. It's a perfect fit, great scenario and everything. But when they did that, they had to nail the second round lineman pick. And a good chance they had to nail a third or fourth round lineman pick as well to make up for losing a generational type talent. And Sewell, maybe not generational necessarily, but an elite prospect either way. They didn't do that. They absolutely whiffed. Carmen could be a serviceable guard, a starting guard for the next decade. I'm not going to disagree with that. Do I think he's a good prospect? No. I think he was a shit tackle, an average one at best at a good school that boosted his draft stock. I think it was a bad pick. Any way you could scratch it, especially with the guys on the board. It makes the Raiders' slight reach of Leatherwood look like the best pick in the world, in my opinion. That's how bad I hate that pick. Like, Carmen was a third round at best prospect for me. Had no business being the top of the second round pick. Absolute waste of a pick.
Yeah, man.
And then you pile in, Burrow had major injury, and there hasn't really been a quarterback that he was a QB1 most weeks when he played. This is going to limit the running ability for at least the first half of the year. There hasn't been a quarterback that just blown out his knee or Achilles or anything like that, and then just came back next year and was like, yeah, it just picked right back up. We're easily a quarterback one again. No. He's going to be a quarterback 2 for most of the year. He's going to have quarterback 1 weeks. I think he's a quarterback 1 in Dynasty, like, for the future, clearly. And he's got a great offense with kind of a shit offense or shit coach. But you got to taper the expectations, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I already have built in my tapered expectations for Joe Burrow. I'm not, like, bumping him down regarding anything really moving forward. I have him around 16 or 17, I believe, right behind Baker Mayfield, who we'll talk about in a little bit as well. Just Joe Burrow, people hype up his running ability as if it was like something outstanding. It was very, Carson Wentz when he was good. It was like average.
It's not Daniel Jones even.
No, it's not.
It's
and
like Baker
not
level.
even.
Like, it's Baker Wentz. Like, it's a normal. It's an average level of running.
Yeah,
it's nowhere near elite.
Yeah, and when you take all of that away, and again, it wasn't super impactful on his overall finish, but when you take that away, at least for this year, then you're looking at like you said, QB2 most weeks. He'll definitely have QB1 weeks, assuming that he is healthy, assuming that line can keep him that way. So, yeah, Joe Burrow is just a guy. I mean, I have a share. I have him in that contract league. I think that's it. I mean, I'm not really going out and reaching for Joe Burrow, especially, and we haven't even talked about, we did a little bit, but his issues throwing the ball deep were real. And we have to assume that Jamar Chase helps that because that's familiar, but it could also just be everyone says it was because he was getting hit all the time. Well, in clean pockets, he couldn't throw deep either. So there's something that's not clicking, and I don't think the major knee injury is going to fix that. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's crazy. But let's move on to the Baltimore Ravens, the 3 questions that we have. I kind of dumbed them down. We have a very long list of questions, and we'll expand a little bit. But, first one, can Lamar take a leap as a passer now that he has some real weapons? Number 2, this is very relevant today. We didn't get to the Gus Bus signing news, but J.K. Dobbins' expectations are, I mean, people fought about that all day on Twitter, so we'll talk about that. And then where do the Ravens finish in the AFC North? I built that one in. And so let's start with the first one, because I think the main question is, can Lamar take a leap as a passer, and will the Ravens pass more because of it?
So obviously we have to preface any of this talk because people just assume we're trying to bash Lamar. He is a QB. He's probably the QB1, I would say, if we're just talking running. There's not even a problem. He's the QB1 if we're talking about running. And he's finished number 1 overall and 10th overall when he's actually been the full-time starter. He's had not awful completion percentage. He's at 66 and 64, but there's a dick ton of checkdowns and quick passes and screens and quick seam throws to Mark Andrews. There's a lot of bailout stuff there. When you see 66, 64% completion, when you see 3,100 yards and 2,700 yards, you understand what was going on. You understand they were running the ball down people's throat, and he was barely throwing the ball 4 or 5 yards, and they were winning. So it's definitely not a detriment to what he does as a player. You added in Bateman, who many people think is just going to purely elevate this passing offense, and it's going to be the digs for Allen for Lamar. That's not fucking happening.
No.
I just want that out of the way. They tried to let Lamar throw the ball more. They started last year throwing much more in the first 4 or 5 games, I believe. And I put in here. They struggled early because of it. They tried to let him cook like the Seahawks were letting Russ cook, and Russ was killing it. Lamar was killing them. That's the fucking difference. You added Bateman and you added Watkins. It's still not an elite receiving core by any means. I love Hollywood Brown. I love Bateman. And obviously Mark Andrews is an absolute stud. I love Duvernay for what he is as well. I think this is well above any passing attack that a lot of quarterbacks have had in their career. I think he should be able to elevate and be better. Will he? No. So I have no faith in Lamar as a thrower anymore. I was the one out here last year that was giving him all the props, saying he was going to elevate, saying that him and Josh Allen needed to make huge leaps and they would be easy the top 2-3 quarterbacks for the next 10 years. Allen fucking did it. Lamar didn't.
Yeah. There's a part of me that agrees with you, and then there's another
part.
Listen, yeah, you're right. You're probably right. So here's the thing: Lamar is okay. He's actually very, very good in the short to intermediate, and you acknowledge that.
Yeah, I can be good in the short to intermediate. That's the problem.
Well, and I say he's very good in the short to intermediate. I mean, he did have Mark Andrews bailing him out on some poorly placed throws, and Mark Andrews has some good hands, and that's going to be Bateman for them now, because that's where Bateman's going to work. That's where Duvernay is going to work when he finally gets on the field more than he should have last year, or more than he did last year. He should have been on the field a ton more. I think Lamar can take a leap, and it won't be because Lamar actually took a leap. It will be because the other stuff opens up some of the deep lanes. So when he had to throw into coverage, that's when he sucked. He can't. Again, I don't want this to sound like we're bashing Lamar, but there were too many times that he left touchdowns on the field because he could not place the ball on Hollywood Brown, who was running, with a good amount of separation, like 2 to 3 yards, NFL separation.
Yeah, NFL. It was literally 2 to 6 yards every single time. And when you have that speed, if you have a good deep ball, that becomes 10 to 15 yards.
Exactly.
And that's what we saw last year for a ton of teams. That's what we see every year for Tyreek Hill. We'll never see that for the Ravens is my biggest problem.
Yeah, I fear you might be right. What I think, though, is that I hope they cook up a scheme that allows them to at least maximize what he can do, and then we'll see if he can grow. But That's enough bashing Lamar. Let's talk about J.K. Dobbins, who we're probably I'm gonna bash
as well.
Yeah. So today, Gus Edwards signed a 2-year extension worth $10 million. Not really backup money, not really starter money. So, kind of that in between where
It's a role player money.
Yeah, it's definitely a not a handcuff. That's for sure. So J.K. Dobbins, people are ranking him in the top 10 for their dynasty running back rankings. They're ranking him in the top 10 for redraft rankings. What are your expectations for J.K. In 2021, and then kind of as long as Gus is there, so the next couple of years?
So I actually the lowest on Dobbins when we did our dynasty rankings. I put him at 14 because I didn't necessarily think that Gus was leaving fully, and I just figured they were going to draft yet another guy anyways to take away carries. This is forever going to be a heavy running offense. It's going to forever be a committee offense running the ball, and just because it's heavy running offense, they think that means that Dobbins is going to get 700 carries or some stupid shit. He was RB24 last year. He had a good year. He had 134 carries, 800 yards, 9 touchdowns. 9 fucking touchdowns is good. And if you have him as a lock for the top 10, why? Ingram gone? Ingram didn't fucking play. This is the same team running the ball. You still have Lamar dominating the carries. You still have Gus Edwards, a very, very serviceable role player that at times looked better than every running back they had. He is a great burst running back. Obviously, Dobbins is the one-cut god, but it doesn't matter. He's clearly the one. There's no debate there. He's going to have RB1 weeks. No debate there as well. But he's not getting 250, 300 carries.
Never.
And you have to expect him. If you are giving him a lock for top 10, you have to think he's getting 230 carries and probably like 4 receiving touchdowns. You're expecting a lot. I don't understand why we think there's this enormous leap in production and touches. Where's the target share that left? I don't see it. So you made a good point there. So in 2019, when Mark Ingram was the RB 10 or 11, depending on your format, he only had 202 carries. He was ultra efficient with them. He had his second best statistical year, and he had 10 touchdowns and also 5 touchdowns through the air. So that year, Mark Ingram, to be an RB1, he had to score 15 fucking touchdowns. That is why the expectation for J.K. Dobbins has always been, since people started ranking him in the top 10, in my opinion, that is just way, way too, bullish, too excited about what could be if he got the 250. He's not getting 250, though. I think Gus probably out carries him this year. I don't know. I don't think that's possible, but I think he probably gets 200 right around there carries. He's probably going to get 1,000 yards. He's a great running back. There's no disrespect here. And he's probably going to get 6 or 7 touchdowns.
Yep.
And then maybe I would, if I had to bet on his touchdown count for this year, I'd say 10 total.
Yeah.
And in this offense with the split backfield, you need at least 13, 14, 15.
Yeah, it's tough. All right, we're running out of time here. So one-word answer, where do the Ravens finish in the AFC North, Randy?
Oh. Second. Oh, damn it. I just put expectations on us. Oh, I hate it.
Yeah,
I hate it.
Second.
I'm going to say second because of changes, basically. I think they are going to try to adapt the offense to be more passing. I don't see it working well yet again. I think there's a lot of changes on defense, and they're getting older. I think that's going to be a little bit of a slight issue at times. I still think they're getting at least 10 wins, and they're a playoff team. It's a fucking death division.
There is. Yeah. 3 of the 4 teams should have playoff expectations, and we'll roll right into one of the other teams, the Pittsburgh Steelers. 3 questions for them. realistic expectations for Najee Harris in his rookie year for 2021 only. Same question as the Bengals question. How do the wide receivers finish? And then 3, the Steelers defense and special teams is being drafted pretty highly. I would assume they're being drafted as the 1 based on current ADP. Is it worth it to give them higher draft capital to get them on your fantasy roster? Randy, realistic expectations for Najee Harris, ready, go.
RB2.
And RB2, right?
And RB2. And RB2. So it seems like fantasy Twitter thinks he's a lock for top 8, top 5. It's been fucking ridiculous. I know a lot of it's probably dynasty consideration, but like, if you even have Najee in a tweet that doesn't say something that would like cup his balls at least, like just make him feel a little good, like people just attack you for no reason. Like it just, I understand that's what fantasy Twitter's been of late, but my God, dude, like he's a good running back with an average offensive line with a shit quarterback that will dump it down, but he's dumping it down to Deontay.
Yeah.
So, like, Najee's not getting 150 targets. I don't understand why people think that, well, Ben's going to dump it down. That means Najee's getting a dick ton, right? No. It's going to go to the guy that got over 10 targets every fucking game he was healthy.
Yeah. My thing with Najee, I do think, like, I think he's going to get some of the dump down work, right? Like, James Conner worked in that. I mean, but how high value is your target if – now, I know targets are more valuable than carries. I get that, especially in PPR, full PPR, which is what we largely play. But when your targets are coming within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, then you're looking at, well, is Najee really going to be super dynamic after the catch? He was at Alabama because he ran swing routes. I mean, he got the Jonathan Taylor type of passing work. And so can he get that for the Steelers? Yes. Are they going to throw him the ball like that? Probably not. He's going to run a route. He's going to stop 3 yards downfield. He's going to turn around. He's going to catch the ball, and then he's going to have to turn and make a play. And I don't know that that's Najee's specialty. No, I'm sorry, guys. Najee is not bulletproof. He does have flaws, and I would say that would be one of them is catching the ball, turning, and making a play. So I think you're right. I think he'll be in RB2 this year, but the expectations for him have gotten just out of hand.
I mean, and for him to be like a 1, I think he gets a good amount of carries. I think he's a clear workhorse, but they have a lot of running backs that they're going to try and use. Traditionally, it's a one-back system, but that hasn't worked out for them health-wise in 4 years? So you'd have to think they're going to bake in some relief for the guy, especially because he got a ton of workload at Bama near the end of his career, at least. So he's got to get a ton of touchdowns or a ton of touches through the air. I think he gets a above average or average of both of those. So RB2, and that's a great fucking year for a rookie.
Yeah, it is. It for sure is. All right. For 2021 only, how do the wide receivers finish? You don't need to give them like a status, but just the ranking of them.
Okay. Just wide receiver 1, 2, 3, 4 type thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so just like the Bengals. Okay, Deontay Johnson, wide receiver 1 weeks, wide receiver 2. Juju Smith-Schuster, back end wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. Chase Claypool, wide receiver 1 weeks, wide receiver 4.
Yeah. I think I would take Deontay as a 2, Juju as a 3, Chase as a 3. I do think that that's possible just from the touchdown work.
Yeah, but he just got 3 targets a game.
It's very true.
Again, it was a rookie, and it's just still, if I can't just bake in because Juju left an extra 5 to 10 targets a game, why would I? Especially if they're If Najee's going to be a god, they're going to run the ball more. So is he still going to just get 3 targets? Because he's not going to be a wide receiver 1 with that, or even a wide receiver 2.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know what to think of the Steelers offense. I think it's going to be a lot worse than people think, and I think that sucks for fantasy.
Yeah.
And even when I say a 2 for Deontay, I think it's a back end 2 personally. But
I go mid only. It just I don't think the touchdowns will be there because it just hasn't been. But he's a target god, and he's good with it.
Yeah, that's true. All right, one word answer again for this one. Steelers defense worth the higher draft capital.
It's just no. I put this question in there because the Steelers defense was elite last year, at least when they were healthy. There's no question. They lost a couple pieces. They'll still be really good. Don't fucking draft them early. Like, it's never worth it. Number 1 defenses never repeat. Usually the top 2 or 3 don't ever like really repeat fully. Like, it's just never worth it. Either stream or have a defense you're targeting that you're going to pick like a round and a half earlier than they should go, or a round earlier than they should go, that you think has a chance to be the 1 this year. Other than that, get a defense that's a good matchup the first 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get the Steelers. Somebody's going to keep the Steelers on their team for most weeks this year and hate it.
Yeah, I agree. I am targeting the Washington football team defense in all of my redraft leagues.
I do not know yet, but I will say I would rather take
anyone.
Jacoby Myers, Henry Ruggs, Paris Campbell, and any Jarvis Landry, even maybe Hollywood Brown, Robbie Anderson. All these guys I'd take instead. I mean, that's a realistic kind of possibility where the Steelers will go.
Yep. That is very fair. All right. And lastly, the Cleveland Browns. Man, this is a fun year to talk about the Browns, and I can't wait to get into it even deeper as the offseason rolls on and into the season. But the 3 questions: buy or sell Nick Chubb as RB3 and Kareem Hunt as RB15. What the fuck? It's been a long night. We're pushing it here. Second question: how are they going to distribute targets to the wide receivers or just in general the weapons? And then 3, are the Browns an actual Super Bowl contender? Definitely saving that one for last. Number 1, buy or sell Nick Chubb as RB3, Kareem Hunt as RB15. Randy, go.
Oh, I don't think people understand how close this is going to be. Chubb, I don't even remember what he finished, but it was definitely high last year, and he missed like 6 games. Hunt was an RB1 last year, obviously with a couple of those games, but he's also banged up for the first couple of those games. Chubb was out. I'm gonna buy this. I think they both dominate. Maybe that means that we don't have like 2,000-yard receiving targets, which is probably still going to happen. I'm just saying. I think this offense is going to truly be next level with a full year of Odell. I think that's kind of the biggest thing, and I think these 2 are the biggest beneficiaries because they are going to get an unfair amount of red zone touches.
Yeah. I mean, I think Nick Chubb has RB1 potential in this offense. He was the RB11 in 12 games last year, so 75% of the season. He was the RB8 in points per game, and that was also in an offense where he did finish second to Kareem Hunt in carries overall. Now, the carries per game are probably pretty similar, but Nick Chubb's upside is absurd, so I'm going to buy that one. Kareem is RB15 at that same if Chubb's the RB3, I think I would sell Hunt as the RB15 or higher.
No,
I think I would.
It's together.
Then I'd have to sell. So I would say if Chubb ends up the RB3, then I would say Hunt would end up like RB21, 22, somewhere around there.
I think it'd be close. I think Chubb's the lock here. And Hunt is the rough one, only because I'm not sure. I think Chubb's going to be the leading rusher of the NFL. Right now, that's what I believe. Because he should have gotten it 2 years ago. He probably would have got it last year if he didn't get hurt at all with how efficient he was. And I just think he does this year. And for him to be RB3 or higher, that means he has to still get a good amount of the touchdowns. And for Hunt to be 15, he's going to get good passing work, which he still will, and a good amount of touchdowns. So I'm not sure. I think Chubb would need like a 60% of the touchdowns, 65. And that might kill off Hunt as 15. So I agree with you technically, but I'm still going to buy. Maybe greed, but I'm doing it.
Yeah, that's fun anyway. All right, target distribution. How are they going to do it? You mentioned Odell. How are they going to incorporate him back into this offense? What kind of do you see his role being? Because I don't think it's going to be the same personally. Do you think it's going to be the same as how they used him last year? Ready, go.
Role necessarily, I think will probably be about the same. I think immediate usage clearly showed just absolutely trying to give him a ton of targets to make it work. Didn't make sense, made the offense worse. So I don't think they're going to go back to that. I think it'll be a heavy 12 personnel usage because there's no other point to that. You have to with this team. So I think tight ends in general are going to get, like 30% of the touches, maybe 20, 25, with the running backs getting 10 or 15, and then Landry and Odell splitting the rest. I think both have a great chance to be 1,000-yard receivers. I think the tight ends won't be 1,000-yard receivers, but Hooper has a good chance to get a really good touchdown number. So he's got to be ranked as a tight end 1 or right at the fringe for me. And then Chubb won't get a lot of work, but Hunt's going to get a ton. He's the wide receiver 3 of this team. Even unless DPJ shows an ungodly improvement or Higgins does, the actual wide receiver 3 that's not a tight end would have to be Hunt.
Yeah, I like that. I do think that the tight end that I think Njoku's going to win the job. I think he's going to be the one. I think he was probably the best tight end last year, but Hooper did battle some injuries throughout the year.
He did. Biggest thing to help you, Njoku, I don't know what it was. He definitely improved his hands. They still sucked, but there was an improvement.
By a lot. And I think Baker likes throwing to him, especially in the end zone. So I'm excited to see what he does this year. And he's all in too. Like, he's excited to be back.
I expect the wide receivers to get maybe 5 touchdowns inside the 10, like in total. Like, it's all running backs or tight ends. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Or
and
Baker somehow running it in. Like,
I was just gonna
it's
say,
barely a wide receiver. Like, they don't scheme shit.
Exactly.
Wide receivers in the red zone. Maybe with a year of Odell they might, but I just don't see it. Why would you change it up? They were so efficient.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Okay, last question. Are the Browns
the biggest?
Are they actual Super Bowl contenders?
Oh, the right answer is also a cop-out answer. And that is to be determined. That's not going to be my actual answer, but that is the right answer because their D-line had some switching, but it's obviously going to be an elite part of this team. Secondary, question mark still. Great pieces, young pieces, unproven pieces, got to do a lot still. Linebacking core, same fucking thing. So, and that's what we're talking about here. The offense is fine. They could, for the life of me, I don't know why, but Cleveland media wants the Browns to send Odell out for a 5th-round pick or something. I don't know why. Probably just because he doesn't want to talk to him. But, if they did that, they still would be good on offense because we saw that last year. And they're going to be so much better this year with him. And a full year of continuity with that offensive line. My God. Oh, my God. The best offensive line in football. And another year of Odell, another year of Baker in a system, finally, a 2-year system. So I expect enormous things from the offense. The defense has the only question marks. I think they will be at worst a middle-of-the-road defense, so I would then say yes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Now, I do think that we're in the minority in thinking that Odell works here. I've seen a lot of Browns fans even say that
because they're stupid. I love Browns fans. I do. Not on game day. There's a reason I didn't work security for the Browns. It's you actually.
It sucked.
You hated it, and you were a manager.
I was.
I love Browns fans. They're the best fans in the world, but they will latch on to an argument and just think it's fact. It's not. Odell is great. Odell is older. Yes. He's had a couple injuries. Yes. He's still an incredible receiver, a great route runner. If there was actual time in the pocket, which there was last year, all those deep routes that he was open on eventually 2 years ago would have worked out amazing. We saw that last year. I mean, it's a new system. Last year, I think the overstuffing of targets after the week 2, I believe, was an overcorrection. I think they'll have a full camp. This is the only actual full camp that Baker will have with both Jarvis and Odell at all. They are going to absolutely kill it. And why would you trade Odell when the rest of your receivers are dog shit still? They're young or they're just average guys. Like, it makes no sense.
Not only that, but if you're trading one of Odell or Jarvis, in my opinion, it's Jarvis because Odell
he's older,
Well, and plus Odell is better. He's just like bar for bar. It doesn't matter what the connection is. It doesn't matter the locker room stuff. If you're just looking at talent, Odell Beckham Jr. is way better than Jarvis Landry at almost everything. I would say Jarvis probably has more sure hands, but even then, Jarvis led the team in drops, I think, 2 years in a row. So
I would say Jarvis is better effort-wise.
Probably.
He's definitely better leadership-wise and slightly more consistent hands. But better hands is Odell.
Yeah. So yes. My answer to this question is yes. I do believe that the Browns are. I think it's weird to say, and it's going to take a long time to convince people that it is. Even
you shouldn't be convinced. I specifically gave the arguments why they aren't.
Yeah,
it's to be determined. It's you. I mean, even the year the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, until about halfway through, we weren't sure.
It's true.
And even then, we were like, "Well, this defense kind of sucks," and then it got better.
Yes.
So you're never quite sure. Honestly, the teams that you're quite sure about usually don't work out anyways. So I think they're in the same spot as the Bills, where there's some question marks on the defensive side at different levels. There's a couple question marks on the offense for the Bills that the Browns don't have, but the Bills also have a couple, they have a couple pieces I would have wished the Browns had. So it's about to say for them. They're both on the cusp. The Chiefs are obviously there. That's the AFC. Everyone else is still fighting to get into that cusp territory for me. And NFC is obviously its own thing of old dogs beating down on the new ones. But I think the Browns are at least a top 5 team for Super Bowl consideration.
Yeah, I feel that. All right. That is the last question. That is where we will end. So that will do it for episode 159 of The Cut. Again, make sure you guys go to thecutffb.com. We've got another new article coming out tomorrow from one of our new contributors. You can find that tweeted out at thecutffb in the morning as well on Twitter, and it will be posted on Facebook and all the good stuff. But you can find it at thecutffb.com. So make sure you bookmark that. Again, guys, if you enjoyed what you heard, make sure you guys leave us a 4 or 5 star review. If you think we're a 1-star podcast, DM us and tell us you guys suck, but we gave you a 4 or 5 star anyway. Randy, anything to add before we bounce?
Busy week personally, but we are back next week with tight end dynasty rankings and NFC East. Yes, sounds right. Yes, NFC East burning questions, which I'm looking forward to because that's yet another division where there's a ton of questions that really need answered. A lot of quarterback questions, which are always the most fun. So I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. All right. So like he said, we'll be back next week at 10:30 Eastern. We do go live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So make sure you guys subscribe to YouTube and follow our Facebook group as well. For Randy Hall, I am Christian Williams. We will talk to you guys next week. Later.